quick demo of this video series. With this video, we have started a video series on building complete React app with Material UI using practical examples. In upcoming tutorials, we will discuss things like customization of Material UI components and theme, form design and validation with commonly used controls, table with paging, sorting and filter operation, pop-up dialog or modal pop-up, confirm dialog, notifications and much more. So this is the complete React Material UI tutorial where we discuss all you need to know to create a beautiful React application. What's up YouTube? Welcome to CodAffection. So this is the first video in the series of complete React Material UI. In this tutorial, we are getting started with React and we are going to discuss the Material UI basics or the foundation for rest of the videos. So do not skip this first video here. Each and every points will be discussed with a sample project from scratch. Before getting into this topic, I would like to thank for your PayPal donations for my previous works. In order to make more helpful and quality tutorials like this, you can also support me through PayPal donation. I have given the link in video description and inside the first comment of this video. So without further ado, let's look how we can design a beautiful application with Material UI. Before that, let me tell you how this framework comes into the picture. So here is the official website for the framework, material-ui.com. Material UI is an UI framework and which is a React implementation of Google Material Design. If you don't know, Google has already created a design system called Material Design. So here is the official website for the system, material.io. It has the detailed documentation on this design system. The appearance and behavior of each components are deeply documented inside this system here. Nowadays, most of the Android devices are using Material Design because Google mobile development frameworks like Kotlin or Flutter are using Material Design components by default. Nowadays, all of the Google products like Gmail, YouTube are using Material Design components. And by inspired from these products, more and more developers are interested in Material Design. As a result of that, here we have the React version of Material Design, which is called as Material UI. Like this, Angular has its version of Material Design called as Angular Material. I have already done a series of videos on Angular Material. I have given the link in video description. Now let's look how we can make use of this Material UI in action. First of all, let me create a React application inside this folder directory here. So let me open command prompt from this same folder directory. So you can use this shortcut. Inside this folder path, just type cmd, then hit enter. So here we have opened the command prompt from the same folder directory. To create a new React application, you can execute this command npx create React app. And then name of the application, it would be something complete Material UI system. Hit enter. It may take a while to complete this process of creating new React application, so please be patient. Finally, as a result of this command execution, here we have created a new React application inside this new folder here. Now let's navigate inside that folder. To open this project inside VS Code editor, you can do this. Code space period, hit enter. So here we have the brand new React application. Now back to the Material UI documentation here. Click on get started here. As per the documentation here, first of all, we have to install this Material UI core package. So let me copy this npm installation command. Now let's execute that inside the VS Code terminal. Once you are done with the package installation, back to the documentation here. Material UI was designed with Roboto font in mind. Since I also like this Google font Roboto, I just want to add that into my application. It is completely optional. So let me copy this font style sheet reference and back to the application here. Then open index.html here. And then I will paste that just above this head end tag here. Now let's specify this font inside our style sheet here. So here is the global style sheet index.css. The body of the application is already using this Roboto font. We just need to give the first priority for this Roboto font. So let me move this font to the first. Now back to the documentation here. Since we use font icons in our application, let me copy this link reference and then I will just paste that just below this font family reference here. And we also have to install the corresponding npm package material UI /icons. So let me copy this installation command and then I will just execute the same command here. So here we have done with the installation of required packages. Now let me run this application. So npm start. So this is how the fresh React application looks like. Inside this application, here we have the root JavaScript file, which is index.js. Along with the index.js, here we have the global style sheet index.css, where we have already updated the font family. And this JavaScript file is executed over this index.html here. So for the whole application, this index.html will be there. Here we have the HTML declaration. Here we have the head part and the body part. Inside the body, you could see this div with the ID root, and which is replaced inside this index.js with this component app. So this div is responsible for the default view of the application here. To style elements inside this component, we have a special CSS file with the same name app.css. Now let's start customizing this app. First of all, let me clear these CSS rules here. Then I will get rid of these default elements here. We don't need this logo. Inside this app component, I will just add this div and let me start with this text. Here we go. Now back to the application. So here we have the same text. I want to add a new separate folder for this app component here. So let me create a new folder, app, and I will just move all of these files into the folder here. As we move along towards creating a complete material app, the application will get bigger. So it is important to organize everything under control. So we have moved all of these files into the app folder. Now we have to update the import statement. First of all, here we have the index.html. I will just update this import statement here. Now back to the app component. There is nothing to update, so let me save this back to the application. Now let's talk about the layout of the application that we want to build. So here we have the application layout. So first of all, we will have the side menu to the left. At the top, we will have this header. Inside any page, we will have a page header and a page content. So this is how we are going to design the application. So first of all, let me show this side menu. For that, I will create a new folder called components. I'm going to create a new component for side menu. So side menu.js. Inside that, let's create a new component. For that, I will use this snippet, React snippet, RFC, React functional component. We are going to create all of the components inside this application with React hooks. Now let's show this side menu inside the app.js file here. Side menu here, and let's import that here. Here we have a red squiggly line saying there should be only one parent element, meaning there should be only one parent outer element. So I'm gonna enclose all of this with this React fragment. Okay. So this is how we can get rid of that error. So this is basically a short representation for React.fragment. Okay. So actually you have to do this, but using this shortcut, we just need to do this. So this is how we can get rid of that one parent error. Now inside this side menu component here, for now I will just reserve a space for side menu. For that, we have to add some height and width with background. We can do that with CSS. So I will just add this class. Normally we will do this class is equal to something side menu, but it won't work with React. We have to use this attribute class name. Now let's discuss how to style an element in React application. So here we have applied the class side menu. Now let's define that inside the global style sheet here, index.css. So side menu then I will set the background color with this custom color. Let me save this. Back to the application. So that's it. Here we have reserved a space for side menu with the help of direct CSS rules like we used to do in traditional applications. But in almost all React applications, when we work with Material UI, we will be using JSX syntax to define CSS rules. So here is the official documentation, JSX in js.org. So basically this syntax allows us to define CSS rules with the help of JavaScript. The main benefit of this method, it allows us to define CSS rules dynamically. For example, we can define CSS rules with respect to theme parameters that we can see in a bit, and we can reuse such JSX styles in various React components. In order to work with this approach, we have to install some of the plugins that is listed here. Some of them are optional. You can see that it is already there inside React application by default. Let's expand this node modules folder here. So these packages starting with JSX allows us to work with JSS in our React application. It will be there by default in any React application. Now let's look how to convert this direct method into JSX syntax. For that, let me cut this part here into JSX syntax inside this side menu component here. So first of all, we have to define a constant object like this. I will name it as styles. So it will be a JSON object like this, and then you can name it as whatever you wish. Side menu is equal to another object. Inside this object we can define these styles here. So first of all, we have display is equal to flex, and then we have flex direction. Since hyphen or dash is not valid in a JavaScript identifier, we have to remove that, and the first character after that should be uppercased. So flex direction, and then we have position. In case of this background color also, we have to skip the hyphen and we have to uppercase the first letter after that. So background color. So this is how we can define CSS rules with JSS. Now let me get rid of these styles here. So here we have defined this rule with JSS. We have to convert this into the original syntax. In order to do this conversion, we are going to use two methods from Material UI. They are with styles and make styles. Let's do the conversion with this make styles function here. So we can call this function make styles. Into this function, we just need to pass this JSON object that we have defined here. Now we have to add the import statement for these functions, make styles and with styles. So this function will return another function. We can call the function here, classes is equal to, we will call the function styles. So this function returns another function and it will be stored inside this constant. I want to rename this function with something meaningful, so use the shortcut F2 or click on this option here. Use styles. So inside this constant there will be an object with the styles that we have defined this object here. So in order to apply this rule that we have defined here, we can do this. First of all, we will have a pair of curly braces, meaning we are going to write something in JavaScript. So classes dot side menu. Back to the application. That's it. Here we have done the same like we used to do with plain CSS. In order to see what really happens in background, let me log this classes object here, console.log classes. Then let's inspect this application here. So here we have the classes object. Inside that you could see the side menu that we have specified here, but it is assigned with a string. Now let's check this div here. So here we have the div that is returned from this side menu component here, and here you could see that this class is replaced, this property side menu is replaced with the string that is there inside the object. The class name is replaced in place of the side menu here. And inside this styles tab here, all of the styles that we have applied inside this JSX here is converted into corresponding plain CSS rules. Flex direction and background color is properly converted into plain CSS. And if you click on this style here, you could see this section for the style. It is automatically created or converted with respect to the JSX syntax here. So this is what happens in background when we define CSS rules with JSS. Throughout this application, in order to do this conversion, I will be using this function make styles. Now let's look how to do the same with this function with styles. First of all, we will define an object like this. So let me remove this from here. I will name properly this constant here with style, and we don't need this constant here. And I will store this component function in a separate constant. So constant is equal to side menu. So here we have defined the component function with an arrow function. And at the end of the file, we will do this export. So export default side menu. And we will call the function here with styles. Into this function, we will pass this object here. So style. And we will wrap this side menu component in another pair of parentheses. We will call this function with styles with this parameter, and this function will return another function. To that return function, we have passed this component side menu as a parameter. So these types of functions are called as higher order functions. Now in order to access the styles inside this component here, let me remove this log statement here. The converted styles can be accessed through the props parameter of the component. So constant, we can use this syntax, destructive syntax like this, classes is equal to props. So you can use either of these functions here to do the conversion. So this is how it works. First of all, these styles that we have written here will be converted into a plain CSS rules with a custom name. The plain CSS rules corresponding to this syntax will be injected into the website like we have seen here. And there will be a custom class name like this, and that class name will be stored inside this property here. So that custom name will be replaced in place of this property here. So this is how it works in background. Actually, JSS allows to have various variations in syntax like we used to have with the plain CSS rules that we can discuss in a bit. So far, we have reserved a space for side menu. In future, if you want to see me implementing or designing a side menu, we can do that also. Now let's move to the header part here. So back to the app component here. Then I will have this div. Inside the div will be showing all of these header, and page content. So we want to apply some margin for this entire div with the width of this side menu here. So let's do that with JSS syntax. Use styles function, and we can call the function here make styles. Click on this auto suggestion here. It will automatically add the import statement at the top here. Now into this function we can pass the object like this. I will be using this key app main. Now let's add the padding, the same width as that of the side menu, and then I will set the width to 100%. Now to access these styles, we can do this constant classes is equal to, we can call the function use styles. Now let's apply the class here. Class name is equal to classes dot app main. Now let's add a component for header that we can do inside this folder components header. Now let's create a functional component with the snippet RFC. So in order to display a header, we can use app bar component from Material UI. So we are going to add the first component from Material UI into our application. So you can search for the component here like app bar. And inside these suggestions, we have two sections, components and component API. Inside this component section, we are having some examples on using this component app bar. And inside the API part here, it exposes all of the related classes and properties from the component. You can see all of these components from this sidebar. Also inside the components, you could see the examples on using that component, and here we have the implementation of the component inside this API section. So here we have the app bar. So these are the various examples on using app bar in our application. So back to the application, let's add the app bar here. App bar. Like we have some various examples on using the component. We also can see the API documentation here containing all of the exposed properties and CSS reference. And now we want to apply this property position, and it has all of these valid values. We are going to apply the static so that it will have the normal behavior, nothing else. So I will set the position as static here. Inside that we need a toolbar. We'll be having this component whenever we work with header of page or website. So let's add that here. Back to the app component, and let's show the header part here. So here we have the app bar. Now let's start adding components into the app bar here. First of all, in order to organize or arrange elements or components inside the app, we have to familiarize with the grid component from Material UI. This is similar to Bootstrap grid system. So basically it has 12 columns. We can divide them as per our requirement, as you can see here. First of all, we have to add this component grid here. We have to mark this as a container, okay? And in order to show a grid column, we will use the same component grid, and then we have to add this attribute item. Okay, now let me copy this and pasting here. Now let's look how we can assign number of columns to an item here. Now let's go to the component API here. Here we have all of the available properties. Now along with grid component in Material UI, we also have to understand breakpoints in Material UI. They are divided into 5 breakpoints based on device screen width. Extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. And you could see the appropriate breakpoint width here. You could see these breakpoints as a property inside this grid component here. With these properties, we can set number of columns to a grid column. Now inside these properties description, you could see this defines number of grids the component is going to use, and it's applied for the specific breakpoint and wider screens if not overridden. So if we set MD is equal to 4, then that component will take 4 columns when screen width is within this range here. And suppose for the same component you have not set the largest screen width or the extra largest screen width, and the same configuration of 4 columns will be applied for the wider screens also. So that is what we have meant with this description here. Now with this example here, I would like to show you how you can make use of Material UI grid for responsive layouts. As per the code snippet here, we have a grid and it has 2 grid columns. So this same source code will be rendered on different devices based on the device screen width. For example, suppose here we have a mobile device. For both of these grid columns, we have set access attribute as 12 columns. So in small devices, both of these grid columns will take entire width horizontally inside the screen. The same code will be rendered differently in large devices with screen width greater than medium breakpoint, which is mentioned here. So up to this width, it will take 12 columns for the first and second grid, and above that width, it will take 6 columns each. So in this way, we can use Material UI grid system for designing responsive layouts. So this will apply number of columns for an element in small screen, like we used to do in Bootstrap, called MD6, called SM6, like that. Let's set the column with the property SM. So SM is equal to 4. And here we have to understand one more thing. When we are passing values to an attribute, if it is a string, we can enclose them in quotes. Otherwise, we have to enclose them with a pair of curly braces like this. It is applied to numeric numbers also. Let's apply the number of columns here also. So 4 plus 8 becomes 12. Here we can't differentiate them separately, so let me apply some border. For that, I'm not going to create a separate JSS object like we used to do here. When we have few CSS to apply, you can do that in line also. So for that, we can do this style since we have to pass that inside an object, we can do this border. It is possible to use JSS syntax without using those functions make styles or with styles because of the packages that we have added into node modules. Here it will take care of these inline JSS. So let me apply the border here. Border, let me copy this and pasting here with a black border. Let me save this, back to the app. So here we have the first column with 4 columns and the rest of the 8 columns here. We are seeing this border as a line since we don't have any elements inside the grid item. So let's start adding them. First of all, I want to have a search box in order to search through all of the pages inside the application. For that, we can use this component from Material UI input base. And inside the second column here, I want to show icon buttons like this. So let me add that here, icon button. Inside this icon, I want to show a notification icon with active number of notifications. For that, I will be using a combination of badge and the material icons here. So let's look how we can do that. First of all, we will have this badge. Inside that, we can have the icon. So all of the available material icons are listed here. Now let's search for an icon for notification. I will select this one. So let me copy this import statement and I will paste that here. Now let's add the icon here, notification none icon. Now in order to show the number of active notifications, we can do that with this badge content, and then we can set the color also. So color is equal to secondary. So by default, Material UI allows us to combination of 2 colors for designing our app. One is primary and one is secondary. So this is how the default color looks like for primary and secondary. Now let me copy this badge and pasting below that. Suppose with this badge we want to show number of unread messages. So first of all, let's look for corresponding icons here. I will select this one. So let me copy this import statement. I will paste that here. I will use that here. I will be using this primary color. Sorry, we have to have icon buttons for each badge. So let me add one icon button for message also. So everything is properly formatted, I hope. Now we have to have one more icon button for log out. For that, we don't need the badge, so let me remove that from here. Let's look for an icon here. I will be using this one, so let me copy this import statement and let's paste that here. Okay, now let me save this and back to the application. So that's it. Here we have all of the icons that we have added. The search box is here, it's not visible. Now let's remove this border for the grid column, it's not necessary. Now I want to move these icons to the right side. For that we are going to use some tweaks here. For that, first of all, I will remove this SM attribute here so that this grid column will take the width required for the inner child here. Now let's do the same here also, and in between that I will add another grid and I will pass this SM here. So this is similar to passing through here. This also comes under the item or column grid. So this is what happens. These first and third column here will take the width required for its inner child, and this middle grid will take rest of the space, and this way we can float items left and right. In order to see the icons, you have to scroll to the right here. So in order to avoid this problem, in almost all applications we have some general common CSS rules. Like we will be removing all of the body margin to 0, padding to 0, etc. Like that, there is one more common rule for every elements. You could set this box sizing is equal to border box. So this is what happened before when we apply 320 padding here. So the element moves to the right side. So that is what happened here. So this is a common CSS rule applied to almost all applications. Like that, we have some common rules. So in order to apply those common rules, we have to do this inside the parent component, app component here. You can do this. We will add this component CSS baseline. So this will add such common CSS rules, and that way we can avoid adding such common rules into our application. So all of those such common rules are added into our application. You can check that in our website here. All of those such CSS rules are added inside this section here, MUI CSS baseline. So these are the common CSS rules applied to our application. We don't have to add that separately. Just add this element here, then it will do the rest of the job. So that's it, guys. We have completed with the first video. In the next video also we have to cover a few more basics on Material UI, which is the customization of Material UI components and theme. On top of these basics, we will be designing our application with form, table, model, pop-up, etc. So do not skip this video and the next video, which is the basics for rest of the video series. All of the upcoming tutorials link will be there in video description and inside the first comment of the video once they are uploaded. If you found this video helpful, please thumbs up this video, and for more awesome videos like this, please be subscribed to this channel CodAffection. Please share this video with your friends and colleagues so that they can also find this helpful. Have a nice day. Bye.